Now in its 10th year, this is Gabnet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, everybody. Live from Harlem in New York City. It's Alex, and it's the Ramble, and we're here until midnight tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Larry Bubbles Brown. Hello, Lawrence.
Hey,
I
just heard some interesting news.
What's that?
The Israeli intelligence just put a bunch of people in the hospital. They managed to figure out how to blow up their cell phones.
Yes, I saw that.
Wow, how could you do that?
Well, it did, but I think there were hundreds of them. I don't think it was just one or two.
Yeah, it was a lot, yeah.
And they had a shot of one guy getting blasted. He had he had like a fanny pack or whatever. And it had here's what happens. Hezbollah does not give their people cell phones. They give them pagers.
Hey, they still have pagers? Wow.
Well, the reason they give them pagers is because pagers can't be tracked. Cell phones can be.
Right.
And so they prefer to communicate by pager. Well, I don't know how this is like some, God, like some movie or something. But the Israeli forces or whatever managed to get pagers in the hands of these members of Hezbollah that at a certain time they push one button and they all blow up.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, if you made a movie like that, they wouldn't buy it. They say, it's too impossible, That's exactly, they believe it was Israel. I mean, who else would blow up people's, unless maybe they were just bad pagers? I don't know.
Yeah, well, sometimes cell phones blow up. So.
Well, the lithium-ion batteries blow up.
Yeah.
But these things actually physically, when they all blew up at the same time.
So how bad of an injury does it get?
Well, I mean, some people were badly injured, and others, it was only minor. But, geez, what an idea, I mean, if I were an intelligence person, I couldn't think of that one.
No, I know the Chinese army has some helmets where they can just blow up their own soldiers.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Either that's a good question. Why would you blow up your own people?
I mean, your own soldiers.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a way of controlling the soldiers?
That's probably it, yeah.
Helmets that would blow up? Man,
yeah, he better not desert.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah. Anyway, that was a big story today. Although by the time
it was like Day of the Dolphin. Weren't they teaching dolphins to deliver bombs or something? That old movie.
Oh God! Well, dolphins. Dolphins wouldn't normally want to hurt man, but I suppose you could. I don't think it was ever a situation where they made dolphins blow people up. There have been stories about dolphins. This was a great story. During World War II, somebody, I can't remember who, got their ship got blown up or whatever, and they wound up in a lifeboat, and they were out in the ocean, and ahead of them was an island, but the island was a Japanese-held island, so they didn't want to go there. And the dolphins came along, and because they were so friendly to man and wanted to save them, they pushed them towards the island, and they got caught by the Japanese. Yeah. And I don't know what you do. Do you try to reason with a dolphin? Like, no, don't. I don't want to go there. I know you're trying to do something nice for me, because dolphins love human beings. And they will try to save them if they're in danger or whatever. And that's very nice. But don't send me over to an island held by the Japanese. So. Which reminds me of racism. I love racism. Really, I mean, I hate to say that. It sounds bad, doesn't it? I like
That
racism.
sounds bad.
I like it when it comes to comedy, okay? People forget that comedy in this country, at one point, was all race comedy. You know, you had like the Jewish comics who would be doing the dialects, you know, and you'd have the black comics who were doing like Stepin Fetchit and Mantan Moreland were doing their bit. And at one point, racism was kind of something that we lovably laughed at. Would you disagree with me?
Oh, it's a big part of it. Yeah, I mean, well, look how much laughs Archie Bunker got.
Exactly. But you know, there was a kind of thing about races there was race comedy. All the comedians in vaudeville did dialect acts. You know, I mean, what was it? We had Chico Marx was doing an Italian, and Chico Marx wasn't Italian. He was terribly.
Yeah, he did do the Italian, right? Yeah,
Italian accent. Yeah. You know, and I don't, to this day, I don't hear anybody who's Italian ever complain about it. But what I do hate is when somebody like TCM shows Gone with the Wind, they feel it necessary ahead of time to say there are certain racial stereotypes in this motion picture which are not looked upon as positive today. But we have to take it in which the context in which it was made. Hey, we know that, okay?
that's so stupid.
You know? I mean, and let's face it, Butterfly McQueen didn't know about birthing babies. So, you know, I mean, what I hate is that we have thrown to the wolves a bunch of great comics in this world who were, in fact, race comics. The Stepin Fetchits, for instance. All Stepin Fetchit ever did was create a character everybody else wanted to do. He wasn't trying to set up a stereotype. There was no stereotype until Stepin Fetchit came along. And it was only a stereotype not because of Stepin Fetchit, but because of Mantan Moreland and Willie Best and people like that who were trying to capitalize on his success. And so we don't sit around going, you don't see a bunch of black artists holding a testimonial dinner to the memory of Stepin Fetchit. And they really should. He was a great comic.
Really, I don't think I've seen much of him.
Well, you know, he was the one that created the lazy Negro, okay?
Okay.
As a character, not as anything else, but as a funny comedic character, which it was. But it was so successful that everybody says he created a stereotype. So, you know, I guess I've created.
What about Amos and Andy?
Amos and Andy was a different situation. I think, you know, the horrible thing about Amos and Andy was these were two black characters being played by white guys, Freeman Gosden and Charles Carell. And they created Amos and Andy, and they played Amos and Andy. But every other actor on that radio show was black.
Really?
Okay? They were the largest employer of black talent in America.
Wow.
So the question is, yeah, these two white guys are playing black guys, all right. But the good of it is all these black actors and comedians were getting work. So where's the bad in that?
That's a good thing.
Yeah. And also, it wasn't as though Amos and Andy were these two buffoony characters. You got to remember that only Andy was the buffoon. Amos was a hardworking guy who owned the Sunshine Cab Company, you know, and he was a hardworking guy.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of positive.
Oh, in Amos and Andy, there were black lawyers, black doctors, you know. All the professions were represented on Amos and Andy. But maybe there was one, you know, there's the Kingfish who was a buffoon, but this is situation comedy. Aren't characters in situation comedy, you know, extreme? So, you know, I often felt that there was a bad thing that happened to Amos and Andy. And when they went to television, they were all black, okay? And there was some fine talent playing Amos and Andy. I think the guy who played Andy had been a major director in black films. Spencer was his name. I'm trying to remember what the names of the two actors were who played Amos and Andy. But, I mean, nothing but black actors. And when finally they went off the air, but then they went into syndication. But they had to be taken out of syndication because the NAACP, which, by the way, is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I go up and call you colored, you don't like that very much. You know, yet they have an organization called the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And they complained about it, and it got taken out of syndication, wasn't played anywhere for years. And here was all this talent, these great comedians and comic actors, black actors who were represented on this show and had work and got meaningful work, and it was just taken away from them. So, I mean, I always felt there was a great disparity about, you know, Amos and Andy, and the fact that they really were a form of employment for black actors in this country.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I could see if, you know, in the old days when on radio, it was the most popular show probably in the history of radio. And two white guys were playing these two characters, but the rest of them were played by black actors. And they did that on purpose, too. They didn't want to have a bunch of white guys imitating black guys. Nobody had more respect for black performers than the guys who created Amos and Andy. So, I mean, it's an amazing story. The other one that bothered me, did you ever see a picture when you were a kid called Song of the South? Disney picture? It is a picture that after a certain time, Disney took out of distribution in the United States. You could still get videos of it and so on in other countries, but you couldn't get it here. They were ashamed of it. And it was not a picture they should have been ashamed of. It was Disney wanted to do this movie of Song of the South, which was about this kid who creates a friendship with a black. This isn't during slavery. This is during the South after slavery, when you still had people working the plantations, but they were working for a living. They were getting paid for it. Mm-hmm. And it's about that period of time, and about this little white kid who meets up with this black guy named Uncle Remus, who's a storyteller, who tells him these stories about Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox and so on and so forth. And the kid has a meaningful relationship with this guy when he has no meaningful relationship with his parents. And it's in many ways a beautiful picture. And it's you can't find it anywhere. Go try and find a copy of it in the United States. I mean, I have
banned.
I have a copy of it. And I shouldn't say that. The Disney police will be over here any minute. But I have a copy of it, so I've seen it. And I wrote an article once for Hustler that went, who killed Uncle Remus was the name of the article. And I just felt it was a terrible injustice that Disney even went out and did something Disney never did. He hired a left-wing Jew to write the script because he felt that a left-wing Jew would feel more empathy towards a black character than a white writer would or a non-Jewish writer would. So, it had all these wonderful things going for it. And the song won an Academy Award for Best Song, Zippity Doo-Dah, which to this day you can find a copy of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what was even more interesting was that the guy who played Uncle Remus won a special Academy Award for an extraordinary performance by an actor, and they gave him a special Academy Award. And his performance, on the whole, can never be seen in the United States.
And who was he?
God, I just, you're asking me questions when my mind is suddenly going to mush. Basket, Charles Basket, I think was his name.
And did he work much after that?
He worked. He was a working actor. He wasn't a big actor, but he was a working actor. And the guy who voiced Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox, I think, that actor wound up on Amos and Andy. I think he played the lawyer Calhoun, if I'm not mistaken. I may be mistaken about this, but these were. It was white people trying to make a decision that something was racist. Let the black audience say that. Let the black audience come along.
Right, yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a black backlash against Song of the South. It was just Disney, when everything became very proper and so on, decided this film should not be seen in the United States. You could still buy like a laser disc of it in Japan, for instance. But you couldn't buy it here. And then this is the best part. At Disney World, they had a ride based on Song of the South. So kids would take this ride, and they'd see this Brer Bear and Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit and so on, and they didn't know what it was. They had no idea. And it was just a ride. It was a kind of a mountain ride or something. And it was a ride for years. They've now taken it down and replaced it with something else. And some other excuse for singing Zippity Doo-Dah, But, this is white people making decisions for black people about what is racist and not racist.
Nothing kills fun more than a guilty white liberal.
Exactly. You put it so succinctly.
Right. Yeah, what little I remember, I've heard snippets of Amos and Andy, and I thought it was really funny.
Well, the TV show was very funny. There was a Christmas show that was just wonderful, in which it's about Amos, the cab driver, and it's Christmas, and he's telling his daughter some kind of story or something. And it's just a warm, wonderful kind of like Christmas show. And it's the show at times so humanized black people in this country that it really had value. And people just go,
a lot, yeah.
People go, well, I remember Andy was like this buffoon, and the kingfish was a buffoon, and the lawyer Calhoun was kind of a buffoon. And I go, it's a sitcom. That's like saying, Lucy was a buffoon. Of course she was.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been funny if she wasn't. And nobody goes around and saying, well, that's demeaning to women. These were some fine comedic actors doing their chops. And then there were straight parts, too. I mean, they had doctors who were not buffoons at all. But basically, it's a sitcom. And in sitcoms, you go for the laughs. But in that sitcom, the buffoon was Andy, and the straight guy was Amos, and he had a family and a wonderful kid and a wife he loved, and he was a hard-working cab driver. I mean, what's bad about that?
It's the first time blacks saw their race represented on TV.
I mean, the worst thing you will ever see, however, there was an Amos and Andy movie in which Charles Correll and Freeman, I can't remember his first name right now, both played Amos and Andy, and that was embarrassing. And they felt it was embarrassing. And they pretty much pulled the movie out of distribution because they owned all rights to Amos and Andy. And they said, never again are we going to play these characters visually. And that's why when it went to TV, they didn't play the characters, But they found very good actors who could do it, so. So here what we've done, we've taken a whole group of black actors who were very important. Most of them were working what was called race films at the time, which were movies which, were made for a black audience. All right, because in those days, we had two different societies here, and you had for show business, you had black race, movies, and then you had race records. There were labels that were basically aimed at black audiences. And these people never got their just due. And the fact that you don't let them be seen today because they appeared on Amos and Andy is a great disrespect, I think, of them and their talent. And I think you as a performer can relate to that. Say they finally decided to hire Larry Bubbles Brown to be on a sitcom, but it was then deemed to be not proper, and your performance could never be seen again. That would incense you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's, you're right. It's white liberals. It's the whites are the ones that sat down and I think whoever was running the NAACP at that time, I think there were a lot of whites running it as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, blacks for their entire history have been told what's right and wrong.
I know.
When they should be allowed to make up their own mind. And I just, as a performer, I hate the fact that these other performers never got their just due. Because what do they have but their performances as as their art? I mean, how would you feel if all your comedy was, suddenly decided to be in bad taste and we can't ever see Larry Bubbles Brown again on stage?
At this point, it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter at this point, yeah. Well, I mean, I always point to you as one of those comedians who's still working, A lot of comedians we know have quit the business.
Yeah, maybe I'll set the record for being the oldest working comic. I don't know.
Well, you do have an act which is timeless, I mean, you're still doing the same material today you did 20 years ago, some of it.
Yeah, it's evergreen. It's all,
Yeah.
Personal, I guess.
And it's what I've said quite often is, when they go, this is not funny, that's not funny. Funny is funny, okay? And I just don't understand why we suddenly, we have a period of time where their performances are okay, and then all of a sudden they're not. What? If they were funny once, they're funny now. I think all the characters in Gone with the Wind are important to the movie because that's the way it was back then. It's our denial of what we did in this country that was horrible and disgusting.
I think they trying to edit out the older movies of people smoking. That's how bad it's got.
They've gone back and done that. I think they did that with James Bond.
Unbelievable.
He's smoking a cigarette. They took it out of his hand. I mean, they can do it now. But, there was a time when people smoked. Hell, you remember when you went to the doctor and he smoked?
Yeah. He went there. I remember when doctors recommended cigarettes.
9 out of 10 doctors recommend
Remember that?
Luckies. Yeah, right. I didn't know a single good doctor who recommended a Lucky. Anyway, I hope I haven't talked too much, but this is a topic that you get me on it, and I just, I'm so mad because I stand up for the performers, So I'm sorry if I'm sorry if
Imagine it's so hard to get an acting job. Imagine how hard it was to be black and trying to get an acting job back then.
And all of a sudden you got one on a show called Amos and Andy. Lucky you, Anyway, hey, listen, I hope I didn't talk too much about that.
You never talk enough.
Oh, well, I like hearing you talk, too. Yeah. Anyway, that's Larry Bubbles Brown, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk with you next week, right, Larry? As we always do. We're getting close to that 250 point.
250, yeah.
I didn't check how many this makes it today, but I will, and mention it next time. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry Bubbles Brown. Thanks, Larry.
See you next time.
Now in its 10th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Well, there we go. There's Larry Bubbles Brown. Let me just, let me see here. Let me bring this up. Where is that? Oh, there we go. Okay. I have to do these things. I do everything. I'm the chief bottle washer around here. So, anyway, hello everybody. How are you? It's Alex. It's Friday, and by the way, it was Charles Correll and Freeman Gosden. Those were the people who did Amos and Andy. I was getting them all wrong. I was saying Freeman. What was his last name? Charles Correll and Freeman Gosden. And they were very talented people. Their radio show, Amos and Andy, was the biggest radio show in America for, 10 years running. I mean, it was very, 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 very popular. Anyway, let me turn on the air conditioner here so that I don't start sweating or feeling uncomfortable. Or, it also makes me drowsy if it gets too warm in here. Anyway, we have some people waiting tonight. It's Friday night, and we always don't ever have any trouble getting people to the program. So let me bring them all in here. Here they come. Here's Charlie Wallace and Jeff and Alan and Charlie and yes, Josh. Hello, Josh. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. Yes, and let me see here. What do I got to talk about?
Are you going out over the internet?
What?
Are you going out over the internet? When you were just talking with your monologue, it didn't have your picture in the square.
Oh, I see. You're right. I didn't put my picture up here.
Okay.
There we go.
I
just had the Alex Ramble thing. Yeah,
Yep.
Hey, as I get older, I have these problems, okay? Don't give me a bad time about them.
Not giving you. I just want to make sure you're going out over the air.
No, we were going out. It's just the picture of me wasn't going out.
And that ruined my day that I didn't get to see you.
Did it really? Oh, good. Yeah. So I got to get, what was it, a text tonight from our old friend, what's his name?
Phil Meyer.
Phil Meyer. He's in New York. Yeah. And he wants to see me Monday at like around noon because he's having a flight going back on at 4:00 that afternoon.
There you go.
I'm thinking, God, he really wants to see me, doesn't he? He's here for a whole weekend, and he can't take time out to see me.
It's mainly a business trip.
What?
And to show his new girlfriend around town.
Yeah.
It's something to do with the company that he owns the franchise.
Well, no, he said he was coming in for the beta, what do you call it? What's that? Tunnels to whatever.
Tunnels to toilets or something.
Yeah, 4K. And I'm thinking, He doesn't run.
He's not. Neither one of them are going to run. They're going to walk it, according to him.
Oh, okay, sure. They know how long it is?
I don't know. I didn't.
Oh, it's, I don't know, 10, 15 miles, something like that.
No, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't even walk up the street now. It's getting ridiculous. I went up with Marjorie. Coming back, I was better off than going down, but I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get through an airport, let alone.
Well, tell him to come out and visit you. What the hell? He can get an Uber and come visit.
No. It has nothing to do with my walking. I'm not going to walk. He's going to come up here.
No.
So I told him, come over around noon, and I can get rid of him by around 2 so he can get out to the airport, and that's it. It's the most I have to see of Phil Meyer.
Yeah. Tony called me and texted me, and he was pissed that Phil's not making time to see him.
Oh, really? No. Did Tony really say that?
Yes.
Oh,
and then he called me, and we talked on the phone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Phil went all that way. He's seeing you. I can't take a couple minutes to see Tony, but.
Well, you know what I do, and this is absolute true. Let's say I come to San Francisco. I don't tell anybody I'm going to San Francisco, because what happens is somebody's going to be pissed off that I didn't see them, right?
Okay.
So if you don't tell people where you're going, and then maybe when you're there you go, hey, I'm in San Francisco, I'd like to see you.
Right.
Then you're determining who you're going to see, as opposed to, I got to see so-and-so, and so-and-so wants to see me, and if I don't see so-and-so, they'll be pissed off at me.
Yep.
So you just don't tell anybody, That's the best way to do things. Anyway, so it's Friday, and another week has gone by, and, how's it, Josh, how do you think the election is coming along? How do you think Kamala is doing? Do you think she's going to pull it off?
Well, very good prospects for it. I mean, it's close, things keep trending that direction, but, from everything I've been seeing, I'm a little out of touch this week, but from everything I've been seeing and the little bit of stuff that I've looked at, a lot of good polling data is trending and things like that. I heard this morning that her campaign doesn't believe it, but that, some latest polling in Nevada, for example, indicated that the lead in Nevada was almost 7 points for her, which was shocking. And they don't think that it's accurate. They think Nevada will be very close, but they feel good. And, I heard this morning that the campaign there feels a little iffy about Pennsylvania, but they feel very good about Wisconsin, about Michigan, about Georgia, and honestly, they think about North Carolina.
Well,
So
what I saw with with Pennsylvania is that she's ahead.
yeah, they just feel. Campaigns usually have so much more polling that doesn't go out to like the media and they pay people to actually target, like certain, it's just a lot more focused and stuff. I don't do it, so I don't know about it. I just want to hear people kind of talk about and go over, but that's just the indication I get. I think really though, in all those states, it's just going to be about, turnout, because we've just been talking about this constantly, and that's all it's going to be about. And it's really, if you drill it down, it's going to be about turnout in a couple of states, mostly. And it's just gonna, I'm gonna laugh nonstop, laugh my ass off if she loses the popular vote and wins the electoral college and is president, so he can cry and cry. I might call this show and just laugh for the whole hour and just laugh constantly, nonstop, because that would be the most fulfilling yet ironic thing that any of us will ever witness in our entire lives.
I don't think at this point there's any way he's going to win the popular vote.
I don't either.
But I mean, it's that whole electoral college crap that just rankles my ankles.
I think that national polling, from what I heard earlier, for her, that the polling for her nationally has crept into just about 50%. And it's slightly creeping over 50%. And in the past, Candidates who have managed to poll over 50% nationally are highly successful. I mean, I don't know that they've really ever, I don't know that Hillary Clinton went over 50% nationally. I don't believe that she did.
Right.
But anyone who has, as far as I know, has, has won. It's almost it's a dead indicator of a coming win in the general election.
Yeah.
Um, so now it doesn't always happen, right? Because, it's possible to have two candidates and neither hits 50%. They hit the mid to high 40s, and then you always have, people who are voting for other. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen a lot. So the fact that it's there, she's in the high 49 percentile, is my understanding, and creeping toward that 50%. People are taking that as a very good sign, and I think what's been good for her is that every day that goes by, they move forward. I mean, it's like, sports organizations or businesses or anybody that would talk about that, right? If we just do one more thing, if we do everything the same as yesterday and we do one more thing better, we got better, right? I mean, if you want to look at it at the lowest minimum level for success, at least we're getting better. At least we're getting better, And I think that's the case for her, is that, each day that passes, they continue to have positive things happen. And Trump seems to continually to have negativity that surrounds his campaign, much of which he creates on his own,
Well, I mean, you
So
look.
I don't
Let
know.
me. I look at her and I find her very, very likable. Okay. In other words, she's just all other things thrown out the window. She's just very likable. She's very positive. She has a good sense of humor about herself and about everything else.
Nothing wrong with that.
I just don't see how when people compare her to Donald Trump, they don't find her the more attractive of the two candidates.
Well, it's slowly but surely trending that way as more and more people begin to connect and, look into the election, and check her out and listen to her talk and, get caught by the ads and things. Because, there are a lot of people who stay pretty disconnected from politics. I mean, you would it would probably surprise you the number of people that you would come across in the workplaces and stuff who are just really not that connected at all. I mean, they don't watch news or, anything. So that's, but the good news for her is she makes a very good first impression on people. So people who are starting to tune in slowly because it's October now, when they see her for the first time, it's a good impression. And then they sort of remember Trump. And then, maybe they catch one of his talks and it's typically all, boo-hoo and, you know, droopy dog, America's so bad, and I think, I think it'll work in the long run, but we'll see.
Yeah, I just, his whole philosophy is I'm going to say how bad America is because I'm going
Right.
to scare people into the fact that I'm the only guy who can save
Yeah,
you
could
from
fix it. Right. Yeah.
And,
it doesn't,
and I think that's yesterday's politics.
it seems to be. I also heard this morning that there's a lot of data that indicates that her team, her campaign, is dwarfing the Trump campaign in social media presence and ads, and that it is working among people who have been surveyed
Yeah.
about what they've come across from her on social media, and there are well over a quarter of the people that were surveyed, almost 30%, that said whatever they saw from her campaign on social media gave them a positive impression of her and made them lean toward voting for her. But on the opposite side, that same number for Trump was less than 13%. And on the negative side for him, things that they saw about Trump on social media, over a quarter of the people responded saying it actually made them view him as more negatively and less likely to vote for him. And some of those things they saw were actually ads that her campaign put out that don't have anything to do about voting for Kamala Harris. It just shows Trump being a clown, basically. They put a little circus music behind it. I saw some of the commercials this morning on Morning Joe and things like that. and they show him at rallies droning on with his whining voice like this.
You know what I saw
and they just play
today?
30 seconds of it, and that's the ad.
What I saw today that was amazing is he had Zelensky. He was meeting with Zelensky, and then they had like the two of them doing a little presser, where they were standing there with each other, and he shakes hands with them and so on. And then what does he talk about? How certain things were robbed from him in the last election. He's not even talking about Zelensky and about Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait a minute, don't you have any sense of where you are? Why'd you invite him over anyway?
He doesn't. He doesn't care. I mean, Trump does. I mean, look, this is not unknown stuff. Trump doesn't care about
I'm just
the
saying that
Ukrainian people at all.
I can't conceive in my little rat brain here, how anybody in their right mind, any decent human being, could vote for Trump. He's a morally corrupt, stupid person.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that she's the greatest thing since canned beans. We don't know. She's yet to prove she's the greatest thing since canned beans. But she has a good shot at it. And I would feel good about her being president. And I don't know how anybody could feel good about Donald Trump being president. When I see people at his rallies and they're interviewing him, they're going, well, he's really good with the economy. Really? When?
No.
That's new.
Right. I mean, there's, I mean, all the polling that I've seen in the last week or two also is strong indicators that she's picking up heavy favorability in that area, and that his lead on that is chipping away by the week. I mean, it was at one point like 30 points or whatever, and it's down in single digits.
Well, in the area of the border wall and things like that, today they came out with some kind of statistics. I don't know who did, that something like 14,000 migrants have caused crime. However, if you go look at the statistic, a great majority of those were while he was still president.
Yeah. I mean, the FBI put out some statistics last week saying that, violent crime, murders and all that, and things like that were down nationwide, like 17% or something. That's a huge drop.
Well, there's a big drop in crime today in New York City because we got the mayor.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, the rate cuts and the economic forecasts are looking good, and stock market is very good. I mean, stock markets have their days, right? I mean, every president, there's a day or two every year, sometimes more than that.
The stock market this week, the Dow hit its highest number in its history.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, the economy, all the indicators is that the economy is not bad.
Right.
The problem are people who are taking advantage of the American public by raising prices on food and things like that. And that has nothing, the president can't do anything about that except maybe pass some laws and, get some things going to prevent that from happening, or to, arrest people for, taking advantage of the situation. But all the financial indicators in the country are very positive. I mean, I made some money last week. So I mean, it's just the way it is. I admit that I bought a lot of stock, and then I suddenly found that the stock market went belly up. This was a couple of months ago. And I went, oh, my God, well, there goes about $2,000 of my money. And all of a sudden here, I've made money.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, at that time when it did that, if you could have afforded it, you could have thrown in some more and bought the same stock while it was in the tank.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you have the time to wait, some people are looking for quick turnarounds or whatever, but yeah, I mean, if you have the time, that would have been the opportunity to purchase more of the same.
But the notion that the economy is bad is absolutely wrong.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. And but that's
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, if you want to argue about how good it is or how great it is, or is it the best of all, I mean, some of that stuff, what really doesn't matter, but it's not, we're not in this depression. I mean, I don't know anybody that's not working where I live that, that wants to, and, there are plenty of jobs in my area at least, I mean, I can only speak to that, but we talk to similar people around the country and, they all indicate about the same. I mean, there's no one starving that I know of that, because they can't find a job or are some things too expensive? Yeah, I'm sure they are, yes, you know, and some of it is just, I mean, fucking television is too expensive anymore, if you ask me. But, you got, those are personal choices and but there are some things you can't help. Are some groceries too expensive? Sure. Yes. But would people like the government to step in and drive those prices down through some price controls? Oh my God, are you a communist? Well, then what do you want?
yeah.
I mean, you just told me there was a problem. We offered a solution. You didn't like the solution. So what do you want? I mean, that's the issue with Trump specifically, and that's really the issue a lot, in my opinion, with the Republican Party is the answer is no, they do not want a solution. They want the problem.
Hey, look at Charlie. He's asleep.
Yeah.
There. Hey, he's okay.
Oh yeah.
I know the feeling, Charlie. I was napping earlier today, and then I woke up with acid reflux. I mean, it was just one of those naps that weren't doing well by me. But it's just I just think there's a whole myth that Trump has created that his people seem to be eating up. And I know those people who are Trump followers are having a bad time at the grocery store for a very simple reason. They're not the people who make money in this country. They're not the privileged in this country. But Trump is. And when he tells you that he's going to help you and make your life wonderful, the guy in his whole life never went into a grocery store to buy groceries.
That's all. It's just it's rhetoric and it's made up. It's like Eric Trump, a few days ago saying it cost him $300 to fill up his truck with gas. I mean, bullshit. I mean,
what?
Your 18-wheeler? I mean, come on. I mean, that's he's bitching. It cost him $300 to fill up his truck with gas.
Well, even a big, huge 4-wheeler or 5-6-wheeler or whatever you call them,
yeah, I mean,
don't take $300 worth.
I mean, if
gas.
you have an over the road semi truck, that has two 150-gallon tanks on each side, 300 gallons of diesel would cost more than that, but that ain't what he was talking about. I mean, it's just what I'm saying. It's just made up, I had a Ram 2500 in 2007 when gas was out of control, when George Bush was the president, by the way, and it used to cost me a little over $100 to fill it up if it was empty. I mean, that's not 300. I mean, that's made up. So that's what I'm saying. They go on television or whatever and radio shows or podcasts or whatever, and they say that garbage, and the people that are listening to it are the people that love them, and they say amen, preacher. And
well, all I'm saying to those people who are listening who think he's good with money and he cares about you, I mean, he gave the millionaires the tax break in this country, the billionaires the tax break in this country, not you, of course you're not going to. They ask the question, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And the answer might be no, because things have changed. 4 years is a lot of time in the economy, and the economy has gone up, but it's gone up all over the world. It's not just here, So.
Gas is expensive here. It's $5 a gallon. I have a 33-gallon fuel tank on my full-size van. Cost me about $150, $160 to fill it up, not $300.
Right.
So,
and part of that stuff is how much of that is state California tax.
Yeah,
and by
different
the way,
than Idaho's tax, which is different than Ohio's tax.
The average in the country right now is about at $3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And about five and a half here.
Yeah, and that's because you
It's
got all
different
those added
everywhere.
things and so on.
Absolutely. Josh just said that. Yeah. It's all these added taxes in California.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it's different everywhere, But again, do we want to find ways to drive oil prices down?
Well, when I
Okay,
left
that's fine.
California, what, 20 years ago? Okay. Gas was $2.25 a gallon. So really, if you think about it, that's how many years, and it's only gone up double, you know.
According to Phil, it was $2 a gallon while Trump was in office.
Well, it wasn't.
Oh no, never, never.
If
Not
it
that
was
I
$2 a gallon in California, it would have been free here.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Right.
I mean, honestly, the most expensive I ever really remember paying for gas in my life was during the second term of George W. Bush. You know, but but I didn't. I'm not necessarily saying that it was his fault. I mean, I think he had some to do with it. His administration had some policies we all didn't agree with. But I mean, that's just. So I voted for somebody else. I didn't act like I needed to destroy the Capitol building afterwards. I voted for someone else. You know,
Yeah.
big
Well,
whoopee.
you know, who knows why any of this exists in the minds of the American people? But the thing is that Trump deals in the great lie. And the great lie theory is if you keep telling the lie over and over and over again, eventually it becomes truth. And he's been lying for the longest time about the economy, about the wall. I mean, he didn't, he didn't finish the wall. He didn't come close to it.
The first 2 years, he had total control of Congress, and he couldn't get the wall built.
Yeah, well, I mean, he got it built. He got a certain amount built, but not what he claimed he was going to.
Right.
And people were. I saw a thing on TV where people were in Arizona were saying, "You see all this metal over here that's rotting? That was the metal that was supposed to be used to make the wall." And what they didn't mention was the reason that stuff was put aside is because Trump never used it.
Yeah.
Okay, initially that's why it was put aside.
I mean, I did see that, in Arizona, for example, his homegirl, Carrie Lake, some polling came out today that has her down tremendously in Arizona for the Senate race out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard it was like 8 points or something. I mean, it's pure. I mean, it was a massive, so amount. So, and the person that she's running against, I'm trying to remember, Gallegos, I believe, is fairly leftist in his policies, So, maybe Arizona is slowly, coming around.
Well,
But
as Arizona doesn't have a hard-on against their senators particularly.
yeah.
If they do against Biden, they think that whole thing at the border is his fault, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, they came up with the perfect solution, but Trump nixed it.
Yeah, he
Killed it.
wanted to have the issue to run on.
Yeah, he wanted an issue to run on, and that
Oh,
was.
again, that they want the problem. I mean, that's clear to me. I don't know why it's not clear to other people, but it's clear to me that they're not really interested in solutions. They're interested in having these issues to bitch and moan about, and vilify the other side and try to get political power and, things, raise money and things like that, but I mean, and I think slowly but surely it's not working. I mean, what it's gotten them, from what I've seen, is it's gotten them into competitive Senate races now in Texas.
Yeah.
I believe in Florida, Ohio. I mean, just North Carolina. I mean, there's a couple places, for sure that they shouldn't be having trouble, and they are. And it's a couple of those cases like Florida and Texas. Looks like they're having real trouble. I mean, having Ted Cruz defeated and thrown out of the Senate would be a massive shift in attitude. I mean, that's a big deal if you ask me. So, I mean, I mean, if if Kam- Kamala Harris and is elected president and Democrats, maintain what they have in Congress right now, or somehow have both houses. I mean, that's a most massive repudiation. I mean, I know those things have happened before, but given where we're at now, it's the most massive repudiation of a political party and candidate in modern, American history.
I'm looking at 538, which is Nate Silver. Okay. Harris wins 57 times out of 100.
Yeah.
Trump wins 43 times out of 100.
About what you would expect right now.
Those are the current simulations. Harris 568, Trump 428, and no winner 4 out of 1,000 simulations. So he is kind of predicting that Harris is going to win it. But wait a minute, hold on a second. He's got here simulated electoral college outcome, and he's got the difference between Harris wins and Trump wins, and I don't see how that's turning out. Electoral college probability. Harris is pretty well in good shape. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're somehow able to win North Carolina election night, if Harris does, after it went to Trump the last few times, I mean that's a massive pickup. So that even if Trump does win a state like PA or whatever, it didn't gain him anything. All it really did was reset the map anyway. So I mean that's what I'm saying. That would be a massive shift that night. If something like that were to happen. I mean my understanding is they feel very good about Georgia again, but. I mean, we'll see, I mean, and there are people now thinking that the nice lead that they have in the Senate race in Arizona will drive turnout, and a lot of those people in Arizona will vote the Democratic ticket. Probably not all, but, I mean, again, it's a turnout election. So, I mean, so many of these areas in these states, if you just could, move things by 0.5% or 1%. I mean, Georgia and Wisconsin or whatever were decided by less than 1%, I think, right? If I remember right. So, I mean, you drive another 1% and turnout your way. I mean, that's it.
Well, they had a period of time here where Harris actually had almost 300 electoral college votes. The Trump's 238, but that's narrowed now. 286 Harris, 252 Trump. So. Look.
Next Tuesday is the vice president's. What do you think?
Do you think that's going to make any difference at all?
No, I think he's going to make a fool out of Vance.
I mean, I think it could make some, maybe, if Vance, says some things that are offensive or whatever. Maybe. I mean. I just think overall they're kind of turning people off to their party in general. It seems like. I mean, you've got Bernie Moreno, the Senate candidate in Ohio, not last night, but the night before, slipping on a tape in a private meeting saying, he just can't understand all these women who bitching and moaning all the time, being a single issue voter about abortion. And he's like, half the women around here are over 50 anyway, and I don't even know why they care about abortion. That shouldn't be something they're worried about. That ain't their problem anymore. They can't even have kids.
They can't even have kids.
It just goes on and says more stupid shit like that.
And then I guess his vote doesn't matter either because he can't have kids.
Yeah, I mean, he just says things like that are, blatantly stupid. I mean, after
what you did is
abortion, we will work this out, and then all of a sudden, when he's off camera, it's like, oh no, we don't care about that.
You didn't alienate mothers; you alienated older women.
Yeah, right.
And guess who votes?
Well,
Yeah.
It's just
it's not been a very brilliantly run campaign on their part.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like I said, Moreno's on tape basically saying he's tired of hearing about all this abortion is about health care. It's not. It's just about all these women here that just want to be able to get an abortion anytime they want. really? Come on, man. You know, I mean, I've really never met anybody that I just want to get an abortion anytime
I never met a single woman who ever, when confronted with having an abortion, wanted it.
Right, was excited.
But felt that for them
like,
at that time in their life, it made sense for one reason or another. But I never found a woman that went, "Oh, goody, I get to get an abortion."
Yeah, you know, an uncomfortable medical procedure that creeps me out. I mean,
And also has with it certain psychological ramifications, because in fact you are terminating the life of a child who has been growing in you. Okay. So that's a hard thing to do, but you do it for any number of reasons. Some reasons are like you've got too many kids already.
Rape, incest.
Oh, forget rape, incest. Just, I've got too many kids already. I've got 2. I don't want 3. I've had a hard enough time.
It
affects the man as well. It affects the man as well in a relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's his child, half his child in there.
Well, I think it's the responsibility of the woman getting the abortion, however, to tell the man who got her pregnant that she's getting an abortion. I think that would be a good idea. I'm not saying they have to, and I don't want to make it legal that they have to, but I think if they did, there'd be far fewer abortions simply because they go, "You really do love me?" You know, I mean, and things like that. You know, they misunderstandings.
Moreno is another one of these, piece of shit used car salesman, that, if the hoe that he has on the side got pregnant, he would be like, just take care of it,
Yeah.
I mean, and then, but goes to run for Senate and suddenly, he walks with Jesus or whatever,
So I love these guys who
Give me a
walk,
fucking break.
they walk with Jesus. I love when they do that,
Yeah, so, I mean, please,
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's a joke most of the time. They could care less about women. They could care less about these babies. This is just their thing, to get votes from white people and Christian people. I mean, it's really all it is. Everybody knows that.
But all of these states that are passing these abortion bans, the maternal mortality rate, the women dying in childbirth, those are going up.
Well, that's the thing is the comments that he made are directly the opposite of what Ohioans just voted for not even a year ago.
Yeah.
For its state's constitution, for a protection of abortion rights. And the referendum won with like 59% or whatever. So, keep talking as far as like I said, I mean, I just fucking let these people keep talking, I give them a microphone and a phone
I liked it
anytime they want.
When the Trump thing was going on, the debate, you kept writing me stuff like, "I just hope he keeps talking."
I would just let him.
Well, and he keeps doing it too, and he just keeps stepping on his own weenie, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I would certainly let him have as many extra minutes as he wanted. I would yield time. There would be no problem with that.
Yeah.
Because he was getting like upset and angry and, starting to kind of keep talking. And all it takes is a few words too many to say something that people, what the hell?
All she had to say was people are walking out on your speeches.
Right. Yeah.
And that drove him off the wall.
He just gets agitated. So, I was fine with letting him he got 7 more minutes to talk than she did. And that was, that's fine.
I was watching
back at the replays. He just looks pissed off from the beginning anyway.
Right.
I agree. It was
interesting that I was watching this documentary they've done on Netflix called Mr. McMahon, all about the WWE/F, the Wrestling Federation, and the guy who runs it. And Trump appeared at a couple of WrestleManias, right? And one of the wrestlers or something was being interviewed said, Trump has always been a wrestler. He runs his entire campaign like he's somebody who's a wrestler and is playing out a role, you know. And he said he felt very at home being at WrestleMania because that was the same kind of thing he's doing now when he's running for president.
It's a big act.
It's a big act,
like the rest of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm sure it is. Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, Donald Trump could care less about any unborn baby ever. I mean, let's not act like that's not the truth. Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it's. I mean, at least for the people that I've known that really did feel that way and had, even if you don't like it, but had genuine is the word I would use, religious beliefs and things like that. They were at least genuine in what they believed. I mean, they really were, and I can at least respect that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't maybe agree with it, but I can respect it because I believe that they believed it. They were genuine about it. They were willing to do things to support it. They were willing to take women in, get them off street, whatever. They had a genuine belief and a genuine policy idea. But other people who do it fake,
I'm trying to remember what his name was. Started with an H. His daughter wound up being the press secretary to Trump.
Yeah, the Huckabee.
Huckabee.
Yeah.
I interviewed Huckabee. Came in the studio and I interviewed him. I liked the guy. Very amiable. Very, very decent, amiable person. His whole political center, is the fact that he's a very religious guy. I think he was a preacher or whatever, So in the fact that I don't agree with him on what he has to say, I understand his sincerity in believing it.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
and so therefore, I'm not going to fault the guy. I don't agree with him, and I don't want to see him, infect his beliefs in my life. But the fact of the matter was, he was a decent guy. He was a very
Right,
amiable person.
The problem is that all these people have the right idea, but Trump has dragged his little dumpster into the picture and put all those guys into the dumpster, and now they look like shit. We don't know whether whether they think that way or not. Now that they're following Mr. Trump, the whole thing is all up in the air now. Plus the separation of church and state, that's totally where the hell is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the people who pursue that kind of stuff fake and I just can't stand it. And I can't stand, the religious element, believers in Christianity and things like that who are really so naive as to believe that they can accomplish these things through somebody like Trump. Because if you really believe your Lord would have sent you the devil basically to accomplish his work, I'm sorry, but I have to attend somewhere else because I can't,
Well,
I can't
I can't understand how if you're a religious person, you can be with Donald Trump.
Oh, I don't either. I really never have.
Totally immoral person who breaks all the commandments.
Because quite honestly, they're probably using him as a tool as well, just like everybody else uses him as a tool. Oh, we're going to get what we need from him. The other side ain't going to do that. And that's what
but
they're
the
doing.
small
They're
guy,
using him.
who goes into the voting booth doesn't think in those terms.
Exactly.
No,
the
they
big
think
guy
in
with
terms of the
money
fact
does.
this guy's going to help us out.
Well,
And the
doing what
fact
they
is,
want.
he's
Big
never,
organization with the money does.
if you're listening to me and you don't make a lot of money and you have trouble paying the bills every month, he's not the guy for you because he doesn't understand you. He's playing you, but he doesn't understand you.
Right. So he's dragged into that section of it. And then the big guys with the money are using Trump as a tool to get in and get what they want done. And they can have all their minions hanging on to their coattails doing the same damn thing.
And I might say to those people, I know how you feel about having to work, constantly vote for the lesser of two evils. And I'm not asking that you vote for Kamala Harris. I'm just asking that if you don't like Donald Trump because you think he's immoral or you have questions about pulling the lever for him, then don't even vote. that's your way of not
vote
voting for
somebody
Donald
else.
Trump. You know,
Vote Green Party or somebody, but you can
well,
vote.
no,
I
but you
think
don't
should not
have to.
vote.
You don't have to vote for Kamala. Just don't vote for Trump. Just don't vote, and that
Well,
will be you. You know,
people
because
want
I
to
believe
vote.
I believe that not voting is as much of a protest and as much of a vote as any other. It's just because it does, it does affect the balance of everything.
And people like to pull the lever on something. They like to say they went and voted. So let them go vote for whoever, June, or whatever the hell her name is, and a couple of those Green parties or whatever, and just do your vote there.
Yeah,
And
I
you can say you
just
voted.
don't know that voting for any of those other parties is going to change anything, though.
It's not supposed to, because not voting isn't going to change anything either.
Here's the thing that I'm believing, that when we look at these polls, what is a poll? Well, it's a thing where they go out with a clipboard and they ask a bunch of people, who are you going to vote for? And they then look at them and say, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris. Okay. Now you've done the polls, you see the polls, you see who wins, you see who loses. Now there's the practicality of the election, where somebody has to actually get off their ass, go down the street, and pull a lever. Okay?
Which has been the Democrats' problem for a long time before all this stuff started.
Right.
Remember when they used to sit back and say, "Oh, well, we got this in the bag. Let everybody else vote." And
Right.
then all
I
of a
don't
sudden
think
they're
that's going to
"Huh?"
happen this time. But I do think there are a lot of people who, when it's time, there are people enthusiastic about her. There's nobody enthusiastic about Donald Trump. Those people aren't enthusiastic. And
I
so
wouldn't say that.
that lack of enthusiasm may mean they won't go down and vote, period.
There's a
College
little
kids.
more enthusiasm than you think there is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alan.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk about college kids who have never voted before are in big numbers going to vote for Kamala. They see her, the way she does things and everything, more to their liking.
My
they're not.
daughter's up in Oregon, and she keeps asking me, when am I going to get my ballot? You're going to send it to me? You're going to make sure I get it in? I said, yeah.
Yep.
It's her first time voting, and she wants to get in on it.
Yep.
Well,
They're not polling
19.
at the
Well,
colleges.
she has a good reason, too, because she's
Right.
got somebody. I'm happy that she's got somebody that she can really be enthusiastic about.
Yeah.
Because how many times have you gone into the polling booth and voted for somebody you didn't feel enthusiastic about?
That's right.
And so I think that that's one of the reasons what Kamala's got going for her is that enthusiasm trumps any of the other Democrats who never voted in the past. I mean, I wasn't going to vote this year. I figured, hey, I don't need to vote. It's New York, whatever. And it's Biden. But I'll tell you, I'm going to vote because I feel
that's how we are in
enthusiastic.
California.
I feel enthusiastic about her. I feel good about
we
pulling
feel
the
about in
lever.
California every year,
Huh?
or every election in California. That's what, the state is last.
Yeah.
The damn, 8 o'clock comes around and everybody already knows what's going on.
I hated that. One night I was working at KMEL, and we were going to do election night coverage, right? And I get in my car in Sausalito, and I start driving across the bridge. It's like 7:30 or whatever, and the polls close at 8 o'clock. And as I'm driving across the bridge, they call the election.
and
I'm going,
I worked the election
yeah.
before. I worked the elections before all this mess, and I see the difference between then and now. There's a big difference. I mean,
There is a big difference. I mean, they don't.
Yeah.
This thing probably won't be called for 2 or 3 days.
correct. And that's when everything's going to go haywire, and that's when all the stories will come out, and that's when Trump will have the U-Haul trucks backing up to the 7-Eleven and stealing envelopes, and oh yeah, they were down by the creek, dumping them, and all that crap's going to go on in those 2 days, and then he'll complain about the post office, and he'll complain about the mail-in ballots, and he'll complain about everything. He's already priming everybody for that.
But anyway, at that election where I'm driving across the bridge, I just turned around and went back home and phoned the station and say, "You do it." There's just no reason to do it.
Yeah.
In fact, I often felt that they shouldn't ever call an election or totally count up the votes until the last state has come in.
I
Okay,
agree.
and then you do it. But
I
I mean, you ever heard anybody lately say, "Well, gee, we better wait till we get the California numbers"?
No, the news people have to have the first story. We got to get the first word in.
Yeah.
We've projected.
Yeah.
We've projected.
Well,
And I
this
will
is,
say that, I mean, I do think there's a good enthusiasm, for her and against Trump, but I mean, I don't know what it is. I told these guys the other day, I've never seen before. I drove to the little town to the pharmacy Monday to pick up some prescriptions, and my wife had mentioned it a day or two before, but I hadn't really been to town. And I will say I have never seen for a Democratic candidate ever as many signs as I saw on Monday for Harris, ever.
That's in
And I
Ohio.
don't think she's going to win this state, even though Democrats used to win it. But for the county that I live in, I mean, I was shocked. And what was even more shocking was at least a half a dozen of those houses were like all out. I mean, they went Trump. I mean, they had these huge hand sewn flags. We're not going back, plastered in the yard that were 20 feet long, and they had 14 Harris signs all through the flower beds, and a picture of her at one house. I mean, it was like, you can tell this merchandise just started to come out. The campaign finally got it sent out, from where it was on. Like, I just got my yard sign, a week or two ago, and I was one of the first people to buy one. And, they finally got all this stuff out, and it just, like, the last 10 days here, it just exploded. And I've never seen that many signs and advertisements of, support for a Democratic candidate.
I'm looking at Ohio.
Ever.
I'm looking at Ohio, and Trump is +9 in Ohio.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Why? I mean, Ohio. I always think of Ohio as an eastern state. It's a northern state.
Yeah.
And yet,
But used to vote Democrat. I mean, Obama won Ohio twice. And Clinton, I believe, won Ohio twice. Went to George W. Bush, I think, both times, but it was very close. Remember the one between he and John Kerry? They couldn't even call Ohio that night. They couldn't even call it till like late the next day, and Kerry basically just conceded it and didn't ask for a recount. That's how close it was.
I mean, even Texas.
So-
I mean, you look at Ohio, and it's plus. Well, what did I say here?
It said 9, which I believe.
that was not, no, that was 9. Was it 9 now, or was it okay? It's +8. Yes, +9. Texas is only +3.
Right.
Yeah, that's
It's
it.
very close, right? Yeah.
Texas.
But how? But tell me how? Like in Ohio, where Trump is +9, Sherrod Brown, the Democratic candidate for Senate, is leading the Trump-picked Bernie Moreno for the U.S. Senate race.
Oh, wait a minute. Texas isn't +6. Texas is +6. Excuse me.
So there are some signs there that some of that Trump stuff is wavering on.
But
some
give me
people,
this. Tell me this. Ohio, all right. When it comes to the Senate, the Democrats are +2.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I just said.
Why doesn't that enthusiasm carry itself over to the vote in Ohio for president? You would think that the people who go in to vote for the Democrat are going to go in and vote for Kamala.
Right. Well, Sherrod Brown's an incumbent. He's been a 3-term senator, and he's a very moderate Democrat. He will support some, not all, but some of Trump's tariff policies, because he's very pro union jobs here in Ohio. He will. I mean, there are a lot of things that he will give ground on, and meet conservatives or Trump supporters, whatever you want to say, in the middle. But yet also does enough to satisfy the hardcore liberals, ACA support, union support, those kinds of things. But, he's very anti-China. And if you
So is there anything that Kamala can do to get Ohio? What does it take?
Drop a lot of signs.
She would have to come here a lot and spread that message and but I don't think they're going to do it, and I think that they've decided that they don't want to risk it, because if they do, the Trump people will somehow start tying Sherrod Brown to Harris, and that
Okay, all
they're
right.
afraid that they will lose that Senate race, and that if they do, that will possibly, unless they somehow defeat Ted Cruz, that
I'll
will
tell you,
cripple them in the Senate.
I just want us to get rid of this
Hey,
whole
all red's up.
get rid of this,
Right.
yeah, but get rid of this electoral college bullshit.
Yeah.
You know,
know,
we really have to. We
Sherrod
really
Brown,
have to.
for example, the senator that you're talking about, didn't attend the Democratic National Convention. He didn't speak at it or attend it, and the reason was he is just keeping himself away from the national campaign. He is running his own campaign in Ohio.
Okay, but that's smart.
Right, that's right. I mean, he's got a commercial he's running right now that shows him standing next to Donald Trump in the Oval Office while Donald Trump is signing some kind of bill that Sherrod Brown voted for and was at the bill signing. And there's a picture of Trump handing him one of the pens, and that was his point, because Trump is loved here, that, he ain't my guy, but I worked with him when it was necessary for Ohio,
Yep.
So it's, I mean, we'll see. I hope he wins. I love Sherrod Brown, I always have, but it's just tough because this place went cuckoo for Trump, and I can't understand it. I can't really stand living here, but like I said, I will say I've never seen as much support come out for a Democratic candidate as I have this year.
Okay, but let's look for a moment. Let's look at New York State, and let's look at what we got here. Our mayor is in a lot of trouble.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I never thought he looked completely legit at any time.
I would agree.
And it seems as though this guy was just doing a lot of hinky stuff. But he'd be smart to resign. But of course, he's doing what most politicians do in this situation. They refuse to resign until somebody literally takes a crowbar and shoves them out the front door.
And it's politically motivated, which no, it's not. But I mean, that's he's acting like Trump.
Oh, immediately it's somebody else's fault. Somebody else is out to get him.
Right.
They refuse to admit that the fault lies in their stars.
Right.
That they caused the problem.
He did some things that he should not have done. And as a former police officer and as a mayor, he should have known better, and he obviously does and just didn't care.
Maybe as a cop he felt entitled.
Maybe.
That's always possible, But
when you enter the realm of taking money from foreign governments, I'm sure Patrick would agree, you lose a lot of sympathy for me real quick.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Wow. Well, we're talking about the election a lot, folks, and the reason is because there's a lot to talk about. This is one of the most. I think this is probably the most important presidential race in my lifetime.
Really?
Yeah. I can't think of. Can you think of
You're
one?
going to vote too.
Yeah, Jeff. Can you think of anyone that was ever more consequential than this one?
I know for me, JFK, as compared to he won.
Yeah, but it wasn't consequential. I mean,
Yeah.
so
It was almost desirable, but not.
yeah, he was most desirable.
Yeah,
But this
right.
is for all the beans. If
Oh,
Trump
yeah.
wins, we're in big trouble. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Listen, I want to thank you, Jeff, for joining us once again. And you seem to get the sound problems all solved tonight, and everything was fine. Listen, Alan, good seeing you as well. Have a nice weekend. Charlie, a nice weekend to you. Josh, I'll probably see you tomorrow. Kevin, I'll probably see you tomorrow too. We do a little thing privately that, and I never last more than an hour, then I'm too sleepy and tired. But anyway, hey, thank you all. Give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, okay? There they go, folks. That's our citizen panel. Where am I? Here we go. Here, wait a minute. Here we go. There we go. Okay, let's push the button. And that's them for tonight. Coming up next, Amy Manuel. She'll be here with the intersection. She'll be taking your calls on Skype at Gabnet Live. I'll see you again on Monday for our pop-up show, which goes out over Facebook. And then we'll be back again on, let's see here, next Wednesday, 10:30 Eastern Time. Same station in life. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? And have a nice weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.